I think first of all, there's no doubt we're living in extraordinary times. I mean, there are so many forces that are at play, as you mentioned in just that introduction. I mean, we've got um, you know, climate change would be the biggest reallocation of capital in human history, all happening in the next 30 years. We've got the rise or re-rise of Asia in terms of its economic significance. That doesn't downplay the importance of the US, which I believe will remain the number one economy for decades to come. But you most of the growth is now coming from Asia, and that will continue. You've got a geopolitical shift, the rise of China, and the fragmentation of kind of the international order. And then we've got technology that just is relentlessly changing. It doesn't care about geopolitics or climate change or anything. It's just changing. Artificial intelligence just being one of kind of at least 13 different technologies. Nano, we could go on about that. And then I think the way capitalism has changed is in a couple of fronts. One is that I think there's been a shift in capitalism over the last 40 or 50 years. It has become more short-term, narrow, and less owner-like, which is not helpful for the system. And that's why I'm a believer in long-term capitalism. And when I was at McKinsey, we would get called a lot of nasty names from time to time, but one I kind of liked was we were known as the Jesuits of capitalism. And so I looked at that a lot. And if you go back into if I could call it early stages capitalism, think about Adam Smith.
Hmm.
He was not a short-term profit maximizer. He was a long-term inclusive owner like capitalist. And I think that's what we need to move back. So that's what I'm long-winded answer of saying our capitalism has to go back to what it was before. And given all those changes I mentioned, particularly the geopolitics, technology, and so forth, the idea that capitalism will trump everything is wrong. And I think there was a feeling of that in the mid 80s, like, early 90s, the fall of the Berlin Wall. To me, the peak of it was when George Soros took on the Bank of England in,
Right.
I think it was 1992. So to have a hedge fund manager basically bet against the Bank of England, this established policy making and win
Yeah, you're supposed to say he
and
won.
win. That was kind of like capitalism trumps, like, who cares? If you're a country, you obey the capital markets. And if you don't, you do it at your risk, right? So capitalism kind of defined the way, and that's just fundamentally changed now. So I guess there's two elements to that capitalism that's shifted: how it works itself, and also its important or weight in the whole ecosystem, to use a word that's used too many times. But politics, geopolitics, polarization, media, that all has a much more important factor now than just capitalism by itself. And that's changed a lot in the last, since I started my business career. That I started my business career in that world when capitalism was prime.